You're live on Joy News today, and a 22-year-old man has met his untimely death after he slipped and fell into an abandoned Galamsey pit at Achim Apampetia in the Atiwa West district of the Eastern region. The remains of Nicholas Bokom have since been deposited at the Chad morgue in Ankase for preservation autopsy. The incident happened in the early hours of today when Nicholas and other young men went to an illegal mining site in search for gold. Eastern Region correspondent Kofi Siao joins us on Zoom for more. Kofi, what more can you tell us about this incident?
Women and girls. Women.
Okay, this morning, and the police had information that the man and some 4 other people had gone to the Galamsey site in search for gold. So when they went there, unfortunately, the victim slipped into a pit and he died on the spot. You know, swimmers were among the police officers who went there, so they were able to swim into the pit and retrieve the body of the deceased.
Right, Kofi, unfortunately, the line is not so clear. Do we know anything more about Nicholas?
Okay, Nicholas, I'm told, is a student. He is in the SHS, and I'm told he's a final year student preparing to write his examination. And he went there to the site, just as I said before, with 2
You're live on Joy News today. We'll try and rectify the issues with the phone, with the Zoom connection there, so we can understand better what is happening. Kofi Siao has rejoined us via telephone. Kofi, so you were telling us that Nicholas was preparing to write his examination.
Hello. Hello.
Right, Kofi, you're on air. Go ahead.
Hello, Daniel.
Right, Kofi, you're on TV.
Okay, I'm saying that the victim went to the Galamsey site with 4 other people, you know, in search of gold. And when they went there and when they were searching for the gold, unfortunately, he slipped and fell into an abandoned Galamsey pit at the area. So the police had information and rushed to the scene and, you know, swam into the pit and retrieved the body of the deceased.
And you were telling us that this deceased person was preparing to write his examination.
Yes, that is what I'm told by, you know, residents of the area. What they say is that he's a final year student in SHS and he's among those preparing to write their final examination.
I'm sure the town must be devastated.
Yes, they are, because this isn't the first time such an incident is happening at the area. In recent times, there have been cases like that recorded in the area, and the chiefs and the people have expressed worry about the situation. They want the authorities to step in to ensure that Galamsey activities in the area is halted.
Kofi Siao, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon with those updates. But before you go, what is the police saying about this? Pardon us, unfortunately, we lost Kofi there. Now, the Ghana Police Service has served notice that the ban on gathering is still in force as Christians prepare to mark the Easter holidays. The Director of Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service, Sheila Kese Abaye Bachman, appealed to the general public to abide by the coronavirus restrictions imposed by the President with legal backing of the Parliament of Ghana, adding the police will strictly enforce the rules.
Easter season is characterized by religious activities and amusement events, and therefore the police service is assuring the public that by its mandate we will provide enhanced security. We have observed over the years that during Easter accidents increase. This year we are appealing to the public, the motoring public and all road users, to abide by the rules. Yes, police officers and partners will be on the roads, and particularly areas that have been mapped up as accident-prone and traffic-congested areas, to manage the situation. But we're also appealing to you to abide by all road traffic rules such that you do not compel us to arrest you. But we're also reminding Ghanaians that this year's Easter celebration will not be characterized by crusades and conventions and pilgrimages and amusements such as street dances and all the fun that Easter is usually characterized by in Ghana. This is because there is a law that bans or limits public gathering. And so for religious activities, we are expecting that religious leaders will hold services that do not go beyond 2 hours with a maximum of 100 people who will abide by all COVID-19 protocols. Carnivals, festivals, beach gatherings, and amusement events are banned. And we are appealing to all Ghanaians not to organize or even participate in any of such. For tourist sites and attractions, there may be a few that will be opened, provided that the organizers can ensure that everybody who comes there wears his or her face mask and abides by all other COVID-19 protocols, including social distancing and the enhanced hygiene. Because Easter is also a long holiday period, we know that we would like to take advantage of the season to bury our loved ones. We are reminding Ghanaians that funerals are banned, and so hosting of a funeral is legal. However, you may want to host private burials, and you should abide by all the protocols.
To adopt a private member's motion from 6 minority MPs requesting the House to probe the violence that characterized the 2020 general elections. The 6 MPs, led by the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, also want Parliament to investigate what they say is the inappropriate interference by some members of the state security, which led to injuries and the loss of 7 lives during the polls. Let's go live to Parliament and speak with our correspondent, Parker Wilson. Parker, what more do we know?
All right, so Daniel, the members of Parliament are also requesting the House to investigate the recruitment processes into the security service. Now, they make the point that it appears both the military and the Ghana police, but not just that, the prisons and immigration, all the security agencies, the recent recruitment have been about what they call vigilante boys. And so they want the House to equally investigate that. And let me just quickly run you through the members of Parliament who are pushing for this. Of course, it is led by the minority leader himself, and that's Haruna Idrisu, also the chief whip, that is the MP for Asawase constituency, Montaka Mubarak. We have Boko Central MP there, Mahama Yarga, and Northern MP, Samuel Okujetu Ablakwa, the Tamale North MP, Al-Hassan Suhini, and finally, Bosa North MP, James Agaga. And it is important to know that James Agaga is the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee. So he is playing an active role as far as this investigation is concerned, because even before the election, the party consistently asked the police and the IGP to launch an investigation into the violence that characterized the December 7 election. Now, away from that, Dana, if you want to know what is happening on the floor currently, we are told that today is World Forest Day, and the minister responsible for lands and natural resources, John Jenapo, just a while ago, made a statement on the floor of the House, and he indicated that very soon we are going to initiate a policy where we are going to plant 6 trees in a day. And today, the president, Ochehene, and the Otumfo will be planting a tree to commemorate the day. So that is what is happening currently on the floor of Parliament. But let me just quickly tell you this, that we know that the finance minister is set to appear before the appointment committee. Well, that is not going on currently because the leadership of the House are currently in a meeting, and that has delayed the appearance of the finance minister before the vetting committee. It was advertised that it was supposed to be there around 11:30. As we speak, it is just a little over 12 noon, and he's yet to appear before them.
Parker Wilson, thank you very much. And we're especially interested in that finance minister's appearance before the House, so that we know when he will come. But before you go, though, Parker, has there been any majority response to the decision by these 6 MPs to seek a private member's bill?
Well, so the motion hasn't yet been moved. It's in the order paper here. And so when it's moved, that is when probably the majority will have a say on the matter. But for now, it's been advertised on the other paper and is expected that today it will be adopted.
Thank you very much, Parker Wilson, for joining us from Parliament. Now, following the Ashanti region's unplanned power outages, work on the reconstruction of a transmission station at Ejiso Krapa has resumed. The construction is expected to reduce the burden on the Awomaso to Kumasi substations as power is transmitted from Bui. Jonathan Amwakoba is chief executive of the Ghana Grid Company, and he says the situation will improve before the construction is completed by August, but there will be some irregular supply of power. Prince Apia has more.
Social media in recent days have been flooded with updates on power cuts every evening, especially by residents of Kumasi. Whilst some provide picture images, others give video updates.
So once again, the lights are off, and this is Asqua, the whole of Asqua off.
On Thursday evening, for instance, around 7:40, I decided to interview some residents on the situation.
We are losing our customers because of the power outages, because anytime the light goes off, all the customers leave. As soon as evening comes, we start to fear because our food items in the fridge could get spoiled. Our food items get spoiled when they are not refrigerated, and this is collapsing our business.
So a few minutes after these interviews, then the obvious happened. It's pitch darkness here in Kumasi. This has become the reality of residents here in the Ashanti region after 8 p.m. almost every day. This is Mama Theresa's shop at Topai. She's forced to make do with this light source as she angrily parks and gets ready to close the shop. It is now 8 p.m., but for the lights out, this is the time her business booms.
I am very unhappy with the recent power fluctuations. At the least chance, the light goes off. Now, even the fridge I used to run my small business is spoiled.
For weeks now, residents here in Kumasi have had to endure this situation. Earlier this year, Gridco brought in a transformer from Accra to be installed in Ahumaso to address this challenge. But that has had little impact, hence the resumption of work on the construction of an emergency response plan at Ejiso Krapa. Engineer Joshua Amwakoba is the CEO of Gridco.
And this line will serve as a bypass to the north so that the power or the load will not pass through the main Kumasi substation, which gets overloaded, and then some of the feeders have to be tripped off. We are also going to install what we call the static VAR compensator to sustain the voltages in Kumasi. The Ameri plant in Takrady will be relocated to Kumasi during this same year. And when we finish this line, the phenomenon of the low voltages would minimize drastically to the extent that there wouldn't be no outages in Kumasi.
Installation of the project is expected to reduce voltage loss that has resulted in power outages in the Ashanti region. Until the project is completed by August, the power problem will persist. Mr. Mwakoba has appealed to residents of Kumasi to be patient for a while.
And in our estimation, this line will be completed end of June, middle of August, thereabout. But until that, we will still have some, let me put it, skirmishes of power outages in Kumasi. So we want the people in Kumasi to bear with us.
Contractors, Keck International, say it is the third part of a 330 kV 3-line installation from Kumasi to Bolgatanga. Prince Apia reporting.
Alive on Joy News today with me, Daniel Dazen. Now, some students with disability have still not been placed in our second cycle schools as of yet, whereas some others have been placed in institutions that do not favor their conditions. We explore this issue further after these few messages. Great that you joined us. I mean, that you've stayed with us. I mean, now some students with disability have still not been placed in our second cycle schools as of yet, whereas some others have been placed in institutions that do not favor their conditions. This situation is persistent despite the fact that deadline for placement is today. Disability rights activist Paul Anoma Kodier told Joy News that so far, about 20 students have been identified to have missed placement, explaining this is a big burden to these students. We have on phone with us Mr. Kodier. We are also joined by the advocacy officer of the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, Alex Williams. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Right, let me start with you, Mr. Kodier. Why is this the case, that some students have not been placed in senior high schools?
Right. So I think that question, the Ghana Education, the Special Education Division of the Ghana Education Service should be able to answer that. Because every year, the schools that visually impaired persons attend are clear. We know the schools. And so they do the placement. I mean, especially those who do not attend school for the blind, for example. So this year, we do not know. But so far as I'm concerned and following the event, people have been going there. I've been directing people, and people have been going there up and down, and they've been giving a lot of directions here and there. So I know the final decision or meeting was held last Friday, and they were supposed to be placed this week, only to realize that some of them have been placed in different institutions which are not inclusive, and some have also not been placed at all.
How many students are we talking about?
Right. So I know 20, and the 20, some of them are hearing impaired, so not all of them are visually impaired persons. So let me state on the fact that I don't know what has happened to the hearing impaired persons, but for the visually impaired persons, I can say for certain that some have not been placed and some have been placed in wrong schools, if I can put it that way.
Have you received any sort of response from the Ghana Education Service?
Yes. So today when we contacted the Special Education Division, they said they have done their part, and if they've not been placed, then the parents should now write a letter to the Deputy Director General in charge of quality and access, that's Dr. Sando, before any other decision can be taken. And I can also state on the fact that as we speak, some parents have written the letter, have taken it to the ministries, the office of Dr. Sando, and they've been turned away because they have no appointment. I'm telling you the fact that they've been turned away. I received it not more than 30 minutes ago. Everybody is doing all that they can to ensure that their child who is disabled gets a placement. And yes, today he sent the letter and he said he's been turned away because he has no appointment to meet him. So this is what we are talking about, that, I mean, they should rather be placed first, because as a visually impaired person, when you go, you have to familiarize yourself with the environment. Your colleagues have been in the school for more than 1 week and you are still home, and you become a bit frustrated. You don't know what to do.
Mr. Akorede, just a moment. Let me go to Alexander Macaulay, who has joined us via Zoom. You are an advocacy officer. What's being done about this situation?
Good afternoon to you all. So I'm actually Alexander Bankole Williams, and the chairman of the advocacy committee. So as this issue has been brought to the federation's attention, and unfortunately, first and foremost, I would have to indicate that this is not the first time it is happening, particularly with regards to the system of placement of students in schools. It happens when we are placing students in the second cycle institutions almost every academic year. Almost every academic year, this happens. And we have in excess of about 60 students experiencing this situation. And just as Paul rightfully indicated, it is not just a bit frustrating, it's absolutely frustrating. It delays the student with disabilities opportunity to actually start learning. In some cases, they have a slower learning process. And so what is the Federation doing? The Federation is actually seeking to engage particularly the Special Education Division and the School Placement System team to have this remedied. What we have done in the past is to engage these teams and in some cases involve the Deputy Minister for Education, often responsible for secondary education. Unfortunately, this year, as we speak at this moment, the President is yet to appoint a Deputy Minister in that regard. So our task is actually to ensure that we also engage one of the Deputy Director Generals of the Ghana Education Service to support, accelerate the placement of these students. Because you see, there are several things that are involved in these students getting into school. So where they are actually going to lodge within the dormitories when they get into school doesn't matter because of issues around orientation and their easy movement. Where they're actually going to be in the classroom, again, also matters. So when you take the case of the visually impaired students, for instance, depending on the courses the individual is reading, they will need a space in different classrooms. So if it's an art student and there are two or three different art classes, they might be running courses in both classrooms. So their familiarization process and their sitting arrangements in the class, as well as the arrangement to actually support their note-taking and also getting about campus, are all factored into their getting on campus early enough. In other places, what is done is that an arrangement is put in place, that is other places outside this country, an arrangement is put in place for the students with disabilities to actually get on campus a week earlier than their peers, for them to undergo the required orientation and placement exercise. We do not know why, to date, the Ghana Education Service is aware that there are students that are drawn from the special schools that ought to be placed in specific.
Mr. Williams, if you can hear me, is this not your failure as well? You are with the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations. You have members who are required to go to these schools every year, and we still don't have the basic systems that will place the students in the right institutions. Is it really the fault of the genius? Is it not your failure as well?
It is like you're asking me if the failure of GS is not the failure of the media because the media did not talk about it. But in our case, it is not the case that we don't even talk about it. Every year it happens. Either the Federation itself or one of our member organizations actually take the bull by the horn to approach the appropriate institutions to raise these issues. We have had several discussions on it. Oftentimes we have our member organization, the Ghana Blind Union, and the Ghana National Association of the Deaf.
Right, but I'm asking because you mentioned once again that this year these engagements have not taken place. Listening to you, you mentioned that you have not spoken to a deputy minister because there isn't one, and you are planning to speak to one of the deputy directors of the Ghana Education Service. My simple question is, if the GES seems not to be doing their job, who should look out for these 60 children? Who should look out for these 20 children? Should it not be you, Mr. Williams?
Actually, that is what we often do. And
but you did not do it this year.
Before placement starts, we raise the issues. Now, you will never know, and you are told that, oh, this year we have done it, or we will deal with it. And you never know it has not been done until placement is done. So in this case, for instance, we did not know that these things have not been done. I mean, they have not remedied the situation that has existed in the past.
I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, aren't there simple ways of monitoring whether government has done what they say they will do? If they say they have placed specific schools with those capacities, isn't it a simple thing of checking those schools to see if they have the capacity? There are even ways of checking the softwares of CSSPS to check if indeed people will be placed in specific places. Mr. Williams, when you say we can't check if they did it.
Okay, so Daniel, for us, unfortunately, we have not explored the possibility of taking a team to inspect the computing systems of the CSSPS. That we have not done. For the schools being ready to take these students, that is something we always handle. That is something we always discuss. That is something we always raise. It is for the CSSPS to actually ensure that the placement is done. And that, unfortunately, I guess we are only advocates. So we can only advocate that these things are done.
Mr. Williams, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Let me take a final word from Paul on the other line. Paul, what do you make of the current situation? Is it really thinkable that we should have waited till now to have this conversation?
I think it is very sad it has happened, and we've waited till now. But like we were asking Alex, I think that first of all, the Special Education Division of the Ghana Education Service should be up and doing. I mean, they are there for our sake. They are there because of special persons that will be coming to them, and they are supposed to ensure that these people are placed. These people are the special education director, the coordinator in charge of visually impaired, the one in charge of the hearing impaired, and everybody should be up and doing, because the placement came. I don't think it takes so long to be able to do this. And so far as I know, these parents have been going there up and down. And sometimes you go there, they don't meet them, and you are asked to come another time, frustrating the children.
It's a very worrying situation. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on this one. We will definitely be following up on it.